Hi everybody, so today's Monday, that means it's time for family movie night. And this week we are starting off my third annual year of Muppet May, where we are looking at movies that have the Muppets in them. And of course, after now this is year 3, we've done all of the main Muppet franchise films. And so now we're looking at movies that feature either Sesame Street or other characters, or maybe we're TV movies, or we're getting a little bit into a deeper dive. And I'll put a link down to the whole playlist of Muppet May movies, and you'll have to check those out because I have so much fun. I love the Muppets. I love talking about the Muppet movies. And today we're talking about a very special one that I've actually done a whole podcast on with my friend AJ back in 2017. We talked about Follow That Bird, which is the Big Bird movie. And this movie was made in 1985, and it's one of only 2 feature films that were Sesame Street based. A lot of people may not realize that the Sesame Street Muppet characters are an entirely different brand and are owned by entirely different people. They're different than the rest of the Muppets characters. There's a little bit of crossover in Kermit and a few other characters. For the most part, they're totally different. And so you won't see Big Bird in any of the other Muppet movies or Muppet characters. And of course, most of us grew to love Big Bird when we watched Sesame Street. And Big Bird is such a loving, kind character. And that's really basically what he symbolizes. And for a long time, he was the biggest character in the Sesame Street group. And he was sort of taken over by Elmo in the 90s and 2000s, but for a long time it was Big Bird, and Carol Spinney was the puppeteer in Big Bird. And if you watch his documentary about Carol Spinney and Big Bird, that he had to hold his hand up the entire time that he was doing Big Bird, and that it was actually pretty physically grueling and demanding, working the puppet. And it's pretty interesting if you want to learn more. And it's such a wonderful character, a loving character. And Follow That Bird, it really feels a lot like the Muppet movie, because there's a road trip element to it. I think that's a big part of it. But also there's lots of cameos. It's got a lot in common with that original Muppet movie. And basically what happens is you have this group that is very concerned. It's the Feathered Friends Board of Birds that is very concerned about Big Bird being away from the other birds, and he should be with people. He should be with birds instead of being with people. And so they decide they're going to get him to a house with birds, a place for stray birds with nice bird families. And one thing I didn't ever realize until I watched this movie was that Big is actually his first name and that Bird is his last name, because he's adopted by the Dodo family, which is the dodo birds, and he becomes Big Dodo, which always made me laugh. I always thought that was funny. And there's Miss Finch, who is in charge of the Feathered Friends Board of Birds. And she thinks that it's really wrong that Big Bird is not with his own kind. And that's really an interesting message of this movie, is that, what we call family and what makes up a family. And that it's not just your own kind. It's whoever you decide to, wherever you feel like home is home. I think that's a really nice message that you can take from this film. And so Big Bird, of course, first he has to say goodbye to Sesame Street. He agrees to go there. He says goodbye to Snuffy. It's very sad. And then you also have Oscar, who was also voiced by Carol Spinney. And so, he's a grouch like he's supposed to be. And so Big Bird goes to the Dodos, and he thinks it's going to be great, but it ends up it's not his home. It's not where he's supposed to be. And he's really frustrated. He decides to run away and go back to Sesame Street. And then they're all on the hunt for him. And they split up into different cars at Sesame Street, and they go looking for him. And also Ernie and Bert are in the sky, and there's a whole homage to North by Northwest, which is really funny. Waylon Jennings comes in and has a song, and that was one of my favorites. And you get cameos from John Candy, Chevy Chase, Paul Bartel. Really funny scene with Maria and Oscar in this diner, and they asked for a tossed salad, and it gets thrown in their face. There's some things like that that were pretty funny, I thought. And there's some a little bit of tension because some people laughed at Big Bird, but not too much, not too bad. And there's really cute scenes with Big Bird singing with some little kids, and he's just such a sweet, lovely character that you can't get too worried or too upset for too long. I like the sort of the sense of humor that the movie has. That's enough that it'll entertain adults, even though it's obviously made mostly for children. And like there's a bunch of fun songs, and so I really like Follow That Bird. I think it's a really cute movie with a really nice message about family, and wherever you make your home, that's where home is, not necessarily where you were born. I like that a lot. So it's also a nice message about kindness and showing kindness to those around you. And so if you've seen Follow That Bird, let me know what you think. Do you like it? Where does it rank for you in the Muppets world? I'd love to hear. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. I think you really like it. And so that is my review for Muppet May. We'll look forward to the rest of the month doing some and I have my merch store, which is really fun too. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.